Zani ke bantu abadala thokozani nendlondlo neshimishanguzo umoya ngiyabita ke bogogo nabomkhulu ngibita nendlondlo lakashibana nebakankulu nebakamhlaba nebakamakalahomu ke bogogo nabomkhulu nebakakhilolo nebakamgrane la ngigane khona ke bogogo nabomkhulu ngibita ke bogogo nabomkhulu mnikati ke bogogo nabomkhulu wesigodlo sami namgebisa inkosi kamhlaba ngibita nawe gogo Ntombi kayisizwe kashabalala tingali kamavuso lwacetha libonge ngihlehlotela ngicela nakuwe ke kokwani bongabaza ke bogogo nabomkhulu mnikati wemndawo wami ke bogogo nabomkhulu ngibita ke bogogo nabomkhulu nemhanzi la ngikhule kuyo ke bogogo nabomkhulu nawo onke amadlule ngihamba nawo kanjalo ke bogogo nabomkhulu njengoba sifikile ke ukuthi ke bogogo nabomkhulu sicela kwenda lo msebenzi lo sesicedzile ke bogogo nabomkhulu sibonge ke bogogo nabomkhulu nakuye gogo nendizitsa lakhe ke bogogo nabomkhulu ngicela ke kwani banikati bami bethi khama bese mandini ke bogogo nabomkhulu nasemalwandle ke nendlondlo neshimishanguzo bani thokozani ngini nonke thokozani abantu abadala. I greet you all. My name is Gogo Ntombi Zizo Kashabalala. So just to explain, I know that I have a lot of people from across the continent who are listening, and a lot of them have very much requested me to help them understand a bit more of my language and learn, sort of the Nguni language. So I'll be putting it in there with translation. So those of you who understand will just bear with me. So I am Gogo Ntombi. I'm a Sangoma, a traditional healer. I'm a diviner. I work with numbers. I work with spirit. I work with sound. And my main sort of direction within my work is people come to consult with me, have sessions with me, and they talk to me. Well, they don't talk to me first. The way it works, because I always get this question, so I'd like to get that out of the way, is it's not that you come to me with a question. You come to me and you ask for a reading. I ask for the specifics, and as you listen, you'll understand why I'm explaining this. The specifics which involve the surname of your father, your mother's maiden surname, so that would be her lineage. It's all about the lineage. The focus and source of my work comes from the ancestors, those who have gone before us. In my case, I have this gift and this calling because people in my lineage had this gift and we're practicing and we're healers, and it is now, I've come to a place where I've embraced this gift. You get the calling, you answer, and then you go forth. Every day is a new day. I'm sure everybody watching this is going through something that is very different to anything that they've gone through before. This is also new to me, but I thought new times, new beginnings, new learnings, new methods of communication. So the reason I was explaining what I use to divine you is the source and our focus, just at least for the first few months, will be on South Africa. Because I'm in South Africa, I can't possibly attend to all the other countries in the world. I can do that on the side for specific individuals, but for those primarily that I'm doing it for, and the requests have come from South Africa. That said, I'm going to then use the numbers that were significant in South Africa's history. I'd like to start with the 11th of February 1990, when Nelson Mandela was released. That was what Spirit guided me to start with, and thereafter we'll be looking at the inauguration, what that means, how it talks to the individual, because obviously I'm trying to reach as many people as possible. So I'm going to use something that is common to all of us at the very least. And then we'll go to the first democratic elections, we'll go towards, when everything started and where it ended, and probably as we go along we might even have to go a bit further back, because you cannot have a future without the past, so we might have to visit the past, but Spirit will guide us on this one. So I also like to use angel cards, so I'll be then doing a reading which will tie up with this session as well. And as I said already, the 11th of Feb 1990s is where we'll be starting from. So this date talks to how the intention and motive and vibration behind this date had to do with a lot of water. It's a water energy date. It talks to the number and energy of which water being that which is the source of all life, because firstly the human body is made up mostly of water. So people always ask me, what is the relevance of water? Water is everything. We ask for everything that we want from water. It's cyclical. As it rains and as people are in the earth, as in which evaporation and all the rest of it, I'm not going to have a science lesson all around this. We then go back to the water. So whatever body of water is nearest to you connects to all the other sources of bodies of water on the planet. So it's cyclical. So wherever you are, you should be able to connect. I say this because people are often concerned that where they are is not quite where they came from. It's not their homeland. Your homeland is your homeland. Your homeland happened to be where you were or where you were born, but that disregards and removes now possibly the history behind how you got there, how your family got there, why they were there, and what they were hoping to do when they got there. What traditions and cultures and practices did they bring with them to where they were going to? What did they incorporate? So normally you take what works for you and you take what you find and you're like, this seems like a better way of doing it, and you incorporate it. So as you look at different cultures and practices, you see the similarities and you see the patterns and you see where things come from, the source, and then you take it back to yourself, who is a part of source energy being, whether it's God for you, whether it's the ancestors, whether it's the Holy Spirit. There's an element of a higher vibration to which we are all trying to work towards, and that is generally our purpose. Everybody has a purpose. People tend to feel that people who are healers and light workers have a very specific and special duty. There's no special duty. It just means that what they do day to day is in line with that. But in your own little corners, you too have a purpose. You too have a reason for incarnating into this world. You chose your parents, you chose your siblings, you choose your friends, you choose your lovers, you choose your spouses, and that is part of your soul agreements. And I think that we will enter into at a much later stage. For now, I'm just talking about and trying to talk to people, because everyone's asking me, yes, well, what are the ancestors saying? What are the ancestors saying about COVID and all the rest of it? I'm not going to get into it because it becomes very technical and everyone seems to be very confused at this moment. I can only talk about what I'm seeing and what the information talks to me about. So when I use the date of birth, for all South Africans, we're at a stage where we are coming out of a very emotional period, a very weepy period, one where a lot of tears were shed in the past year. The year before that, we thought we had kind of found a balance, but the balance was a bit shaky. And I'd like to then also just include that the numbers that I work with, you know, it's from the number 1 to 9. It's single digits and it's a cyclical thing. And so where we were in 2018 was sort of a balance and family orientated more year, a bit of fire, you know, sort of people were kind of putting in that more of that energy when I base it on this particular vibration, because that particular date was predetermined from where I come from. By spirit. There's never a coincidence in my line of work. So we always look at the meaning. There's no wrong or right. There's always a meaning. So 2018 was that for us. Balance, family orientated. But then it kind of led us to, but this family, and I use the word family very broadly because I'm talking about the nation as a whole. Everybody has been trying to revisit the whole human consciousness, love your neighbor, Ubuntu, Ubuntu being the sharing and the understanding and the patriarchy, in the brotherhood, in the sisterhood, in the motherhood, in the fatherhood, and we all try to be under one one umbrella. Then sort of cracks started to creep up to say, hold on, the structure of our family is not quite as stable as it looks. We're not too sure about the surname, we're not too sure about the father, and I say this loosely because I'm using it as an analogy, because we're working with the family concept and we're taking South Africa as a nation, as a family unit. That's the best way that I can explain what it is that I'm trying to say. So we have the head of the family being, the man, we have the woman, and that's not to say that each one is more important or more dominant or carries more weight than the other. You've got to have good and evil. You've got to have male and female. You've got to have light and dark. The one cannot exist without the other, and therefore that gives them equality. The one thing that I'd like to emphasize on is, in the space in which I've been trained and I believe and I live my life, is we are equal in terms of that vibration. No one being is more important and more relevant and is worth listening to more than the next. Everybody has a contribution. So the question is that we were all asking ourselves in 2019 is, what contribution do I have on this planet? In this country first, in the family, and then on the planet, the community. Because, it's not just South Africa as an island, it's a community. So it goes back to raising a child through the community, and that talks about the future generations, which is where the focus should have been, because we all recognize, every single person understands that something is very wrong with the systems we have in place. We've had all the technology, we have all the intelligence, we have all the sciences, we have people working night and day to find solutions, but here we are. Nobody really has an exact answer, an answer that will give you sort of a time frame, because now what it has done with everybody, it's taken away ownership, where it puts us back in a place where everyone is now confused to say, okay, but here was my footprint. But now you don't even have a footprint, because your feet are within wherever you're confined to and quarantined to and locked up in. When we look at that timeline from 2018 to 2019, 2020 talks about endings and achievements. The most dominant vibration of that this year is that of stability, mothering and grounding, and so much so that clearly the planet and the community and the family has taken that from us, because there is no grounding. You can't possibly have a grounding because you don't know how long you're stuck for. You don't know how long you're away from work from, when your kids will go back to school. When they do, things have been taken away from you, choices. And it's quite ironic that Spirit guided me to use this particular date, because this was the time. As a nation, we started then to believe that now we have freedom of rights and expression and of movement and of practice and all the rest of it. And suddenly, the carpet gets pulled underneath our feet. That said, it's a very critical turning point. The resources of the planet, the community, of which the family is sort of a sublet of the entire being, because if each family has a strong holding, then the community will stand firm. So if South Africa stands firm, I'll use the countries that surround us, Swaziland, Botswana, Lesotho, Zambia, Zimbabwe. If that entire, let's use the SADC region for that matter, is firm and stable, therefore that part of the community is stable, and we keep moving up the continent, and as it goes along, the same rule applies. Now, there is no common or basic instruction, or the challenges are very similar, but how they're being dealt with and the leaders at the top and the language that they're speaking are not quite on the same wavelength. Everyone is just looking for a way to solve this. Yet, I think part of the solution could be to include a bit more from the people on the ground who are actually being affected, and the people carrying the virus and spreading the virus. I know I'm referring to the virus because it's the one big thing that is first and foremost in our minds, is that which has taken that which we had our freedom of. So the vibration of 2020, ladies and gentlemen, is the one of endings. When I look at that number and I look at that date and I look at that vibrations, I am convinced and assured that this is the beginning of the end of something. You cannot have a new beginning without a certain part of you ending. You cannot embrace new blessings if you're still carrying old baggage and all the rest of it. So the number and the vibration of 2020 for all of us in South Africa refers to cutting those ties, all that which does not serve us. So you spent the whole of last year crying about certain things. You dried your tears. You have less tears because you're also tired of crying, and you're like, okay, what is the way forward? And that's where we are. So it's about the endings, and please focus on the concept of endings of that which no longer serves us. Sesikhathi sekuthi siyekele konke lokunye ngemuva ngoba phela we are going into a new time and space, and to translate that, it's we are leaving all that which we have been carrying and all the baggage. I can't possibly get to the next stop at the station if I can say I'm a cargo train or truck, if I still have the baggage from the old trip. So at each trip and each juncture, and we have to break it up because otherwise it will be too overwhelming for us to handle it all at once. You can only deal with that which is in front of you, and that which is affecting you, and that which is on your plate, and that which you have control over. It's also a message that's coming through quite strongly that we need to learn to identify that which is specific and we have control over. We tend to obsess and get stuck in all that which we think we should be dealing with, when the answer really is there's some things you actually have to park and just say, okay, you sort yourself out. Nobody knows when things will be lifted and things will go back to normal. That said, there cannot be a normal. So the question is, and the way it's talking to me is because of the water. Because remember, I did say that 2019 was about emotions and water flushed out. So all the tears that were shed within that year have flushed things out, and then what we're left with is mud. And now where we are is the mud is drying, and the question is, with that mud that you have, and so that therefore the rain and the sand and all its mixings, the energy of the sun, the air, what is now happening here? So you have this piece, and let's say it's your mud patch, and you've been, ngesiswati kungathiwa ukuthi bowuxova yabona kulelo litsaka qova. And that said is not necessarily a negative connotation, because kuxova means to, for me, it's to sort of knead, sort of to work the land. And the question is, now you have the land and it's ready. It's clear, there are no shards of glass, there are no nails, because the concept is, all right, now we want to plant. We're going into a new phase. So we have to take which we've learned in the past 8 years, and we apply it to the next set of 8 years. So the year that follows is the one where we embrace and we take in all that we have learned, and we go into little cocoons, and it becomes transformation and healing. It's the energy of a child, of a woman carrying a child, the lifeline, and birth. So to cut a long story short, there the rain came, the tears came, the tears were our rain, and it went into the sand. And as we do say in our culture, as in, so with each tear there's a story, there's a message, and you plant that, and then you take your seeds now. Okay, so I'm going to plant these trees, and do I need fertilizer? What kind of a seed am I planting? Is it the one that needs more light? Does it need more water? Does it need more fertilizer? Do I need to turn the soil first? Must the soil grow? That's really where we should be. And the achievements thereof, the focus very much on the endings and achievement number is on finance. There's nobody in this time, who's not concerned about finances and money and their future. So when we look at, the months individualistically, and I'd like to talk to everybody in particular. So the energy of April is one of endings and achievement. So April has been a turning point in terms of decision making. So it's very much high and foremost. So the energy of the endings and achievements and progression has been highlighted in particularly April. Things kind of start to change in May. It's more of a completely different vibration where it's transformation and healing. I don't want to say I'm projecting here, but the energy in terms of my projections and the numbers is one more of acceptance, transformation, healing, cocooning, going into that zone where you're kind of just developing sort of that layer around yourself, and you're going to go, and it's more of a hibernation type energy. That is for everybody across South Africa. And in June, more of a new beginnings, a little bit of hope. We would have had the whole of May to reflect on everything that has happened, because January itself was very stressful. Lots and lots of changes that happened for all of us. Some people moved house, some people moved to new jobs, so the stress levels were high. You were coming out of the festive season, finances were low, but some people had new prospects and their ambitions were set very high. Then rolls around February, it's a bit more stable, it's now a bit more balanced, family orientated, things are kind of settling, bills are settling. So the energy of February was more a bit of fire, where you've kind of refilled and you've rejuvenated the energy that you've depleted, so you have a little bit more fire versus sort of the hot air that you had in the month of January, because we were all hot-headed at that point in time. Comes around March, we become a little bit emotional, rumblings in the ground about changes. So March has been a very tearful time, an emotional time, a time of purpose to say, okay, this is where things are going. All right, if they go there, where will I fit in? What do I do? Who do I help? Who do I include in my plan? So it was very emotional and life-changing, and sort of everybody had to look for their direction. They were forced to look for a direction. What will I hold on to during this time? Because this time is so unstable and inconclusive. What should I hold on to? That's where we were in the month of March. And April, endings and achievement. May, transformation and healing. June, new beginnings. July is more about responsibilities and hard work. And again, because our main focus would be finances, it's the responsibility and hard work. It's the tabulations of this is how little we've had coming in. This is how little we think we'll be able to make. Here are the new structures in place. So it's about responsibility. It's about, okay, clearly we might be in this for a bit longer than, because that's what Spirit is talking to me about. Is I love my cards. So now we've come to pretty much the guidance around our first session, how we're here, and we've heard, I think everyone has kind of picked up and received some sort of a message from what the numbers talk about. And now the question is, so what do we do about all of this? What does it mean for us? If the response in the cards that I picked are as follows. Don't stop what you're doing within the next few weeks and ask your angels. So it talks about whatever you've been doing that has been working. Because remember, the focus was endings and achievements. So don't stop with that which is working. Don't fix what is not broken. Keep going at what you're going. Within the next few weeks, as you continue to adjust, you will start seeing the positive changes. Don't be afraid of asking your spirit guides and those who know better than you and the ancestors in the spirit world for their assistance and their guidance in terms of what changes to implement, because it's a time for change. That part we cannot ignore. These are changes, but how best to deal with and carry yourself through and support yourself through the changes. It talks about how this has already begun to happen. The situation will improve. We say that because everything is pretty much on a manageable level and is equatable, and we can kind of refer back to where we are and how we're dealing with things. Things will get better. So this is assuring us that things will get better. It talks about how we need to spend more time on meditation, and meditation bringing answers in hours. So the hours we have available will bring us the answers. And it goes back to, we have to talk to spirit. And remember, you too are a part of spirit. It's not about an individual spirit that is out there. It's the individual spirit within yourself and the interaction with the spirit and the souls around you and with you and who are supporting you on your journey. You will have the answers. So all that which we need, we already have, because we're not getting any extra. If you believe, so the matter and the issue of trust and faith, which I touched upon at the beginning, was it's a time where you have to reflect on what is it that you believe in, what do you have faith in, where is your hope, where is your belief system. Even if you were using this and it was working for you, keep that. If you're using this and it's not working for you, don't be afraid to change, because all you can do at this point in time is change. The change will affect what positivity will come through it. There cannot be any growth. There has to be discomfort within changes. If you believe, your faith. So you've got to have a faith. So you've got to believe, and the way it says, in what you're doing is working. Don't stop. Keep counting on that, and that will work for you. Trust that as time goes by, things will change for you back to the faith. And if you believe, meditating upon it, asking your angels, things will improve. So this trust is at the middle in terms of the structure that we're looking at. So that is the balance in which we form everything: trust, faith, meditation, prayer, and nipahla. Take action. So that which has not worked currently, change it, take action, because you've got to change it, because now you're planting new seeds. Remember, we're going into a time of new responsibilities and planting. What are you going to plant? If you have not taken time to meditate and ask, believe, keep going, because at the end of the day, nobody can afford to give up. There's people around you to support you. Spirit will support you in every decision that you make, because remember, the highest intention is to bring you closer to your purpose. Take the action steps required. Ask if you're not sure of what the action steps you need to take, and that will result in our abundance, which is all we're looking for. Abundance in spirit, abundance in finances, abundance in new ideas, abundance in energy, abundance in health, abundance in livelihood that will buoy us through the next phase of where we're going. So to everybody who has taken time to listen. This is the spread itself. If you are interested, we can take it a bit further and personalize it specifically for you. But this is the message that I have for my nation today, for my family, for my community.
Man, the ending. No. Lasso utsuyabo.
Okay.
Like yeah. So looking at the camera.
Yeah.
This is the message I have.
I've come to the end of the messages that I can share for everyone. You can request a more specific one in terms of your own lineage and what it means for you personally. This was for everybody in general guidance, and I hope to see you next time. Wishing you lots of love and light, wishing you strength and resilience more than anything. I think just remember it's cyclical. Nothing lasts forever. There'll be the good days and the bad days. But again, remember, there has to be good and bad, light and dark, man and woman, yin and yang. Thokozani kini nonke.
Koko, so you didn't say clearly, Guti, is 2020 going to end in a good way? I mean, because I saw that you ended with abundance, but I think we didn't finish the...
Okay, and I'll have to answer it in a very specific way.
Okay.
So based on the vibration of 2020, this is where it will go short. Do you want me to add that?
Yeah. Okay, I'm recording.
I guess, of course, a lot of you are left with a lot of questions to say, okay, well, you've said this and you've said that and you've told us what to do, but where do we hope to go from here? What do the future prospects look like? So with the vibration of 2020, things have a high potential for success. The number itself and the vibration is one of success. So the ending, and remember, I specifically said it's a year of endings and achievements. In order for you to reach the achievements and the success, there are certain things that you need to end. So we've got to cut the... So should you follow all this guidance and all that you hear, it shall end well. But not everybody will go with what they need to do. Not everyone will look and search within themselves. This is a guidance, sort of a motivation of, should you go this way, things will look up for you. The stars will surely shine upon you. This is what is written in the stars. This is what the sun says. This is what the moon says. This is what the rain says. So all in all, it does look brighter. The future does look brighter. It might be a bit of some ways away, and it needs work. The reality is the most dominant theme that's coming up for me is there will be no shortcuts this time. There's no place where we can go and buy this thing very quickly. We've just got to put in the work, and the work is only applicable when you try and implement it and you see how it works within your own life. Thokozani.